What's up, guys? Ant here from Muff Squad with fellow Muff mate Tristan Macek.
What's up, guys?
He's currently coming off of a prestigious top 4 placement at the Atlantic City Pokemon Regional Championships. So, just jumping right into the tournament here. First, I want to ask Tristan a couple questions about himself. So, Tristan, if you want to just let everybody know like a little about yourself, how long you've been playing and whatnot.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Tristan Macek. I generally go by Batman for the local players. I generally play mostly local events. I haven't really traveled too much to regionals in the past couple of years. Most of the people who chase top 16 have gone to like 9 or 10 regionals. In the past year, I've gone to 9 to 10 maybe in the past 4 years or something like that. So I generally play like the local regionals, but I've had Worlds invites for the past 6 years, and I've played since 2012, basically. So this is like the only tournament that I haven't had like a good finish in, but everything else I've done pretty well at. So I guess that's a brief synopsis. I'm based out of New York City, basically. So I play a lot with Peter Kika and Edwin Lopez, and then of course Muff.
How many years did you attend Worlds? Because it kind of cut out for a second. Was this?
So I've had 6 invites, and I'll probably get it this year, so that'll be 7.
Sick, man, sick. Yeah, I mean, personally, we've known each other for like 2 years now. I mean, this is actually my 4th season playing, but I only played half of a season for 1 year. But I know, like, when I got into the game, you were one of the marquee names. Like, oh, you got to be careful with this guy. And it's funny that you mentioned Batman because the first League Cup I ever went to, you were there, and I saw your name as Batman. I was like, what the hell? It's insane that you actually like have that. And it's like stuck. Like no one's ever given you like shit about it or whatever.
Yeah, that's the benefit of playing primarily locally is that people just go with it. So it's nice, and you haven't seen me and Batman at the same time at the same place, so you don't know if I'm not Batman.
Absolutely, man. So, just to let people know more about you. So, in previous formats or current formats, whatever format that you've personally played in, what would you say is like a favorite deck of yours of all time? If you had to pick.
So I always liked Darkrai from Dark Explorer when I gave Free Retreat. He's probably the card that's given me kind of the most success throughout my career. I've also liked Yveltal Garb as well. I won Puerto Rico special event with that deck. Really, really fun deck to play. There's always going to be a soft spot on my heart for Pyroar, just because I made top 8 at U.S. Nationals in 2014 with Pyroar. It was basically the same deck that Pram got second with. I just ended up losing in top 8 instead of him losing in the finals. So those 3 decks kind of come to mind. Darkrai gave me my first top 8 at a regional way back in 2013 at Gillette Stadium, which was awesome because I'm actually a Patriots fan. So a lot of reasons to be happy that I did well there. But I really like the dark decks. And on a broader scale, I like a lot of the toolbox decks, which is one of the reasons why I decided to play Mewtwo for AC.
Yeah. So I want to jump into that very soon because I do have a lot of questions regarding Mewtwo and your tournament. But just one quick question too. So I know you mentioned your accolades there. So what would you say was your best accolade as a player? I know you briefly mentioned, but would it be I know you did win the special event, or would it be? I know you top 16 like Nats, and I think you got a top 8 region. So where do you consider your best placement or your best accolade?
I mean, I guess it's probably my proudest moment was top 8 at Nats because that top 8 at Nats gave me my first Worlds invite. So that was, I'll always remember kind of that moment when I won the top 16 playoff match, and I knew I'm going to Worlds, I'm getting the trip, I'm getting all this stuff. So that was really surreal. Winning Puerto Rico was pretty big, but Puerto Rico wasn't really that big of an event. It was kind of just I decided to go down there to vacation with my girlfriend, and Peter went down as well, and we were just like, you know what, let's just play in the event. It's just one day anyway, and then we can explore the island the rest of the time. And I just so happened to win, which was, definitely nice and everything. But I think my favorite accomplishment is definitely the top 8 with Pyroar, and shout outs to Chris Leandro for basically creating that list. And yeah, that's definitely probably my most proud moment in the game, at least.
Sick, man, sick. So, yeah, let's jump into this tournament and how you killed the tournament. So, if you want, what led you to play Mewtwo for the tournament, and curious to why you took a different approach at it and played a Jirachi engine instead?
So originally, like when the format started, like for Worlds, because it's the same format as now, I played Pika at Worlds. I ran into 2 Gardevoirs, and that was kind of my Worlds experience in day 1, just because that matchup is horrendous for Pika. And then I played the same Pika list in the Open, and I managed to get a top 16. But then as kind of like the format started to evolve, especially with the induction of kind of towards deck with Ability Zard, Pika just kind of didn't really keep up in my mind. And when Henry Brand won with Mewtwo, I really liked the toolbox aspect of it, because Mewtwo's just naturally a toolbox Pokemon. It just lets you use any attack that you want, and you kind of put in attackers that you want, how you want to control the game and map out the game. So I like that aspect. So when Cup started up in September, I decided to put a lot of time in Mewtwo, and it's by far the deck that I've tested the most in the past couple of months. Well, last month really. I played at a lot of Cups. I did okay. I got a couple top 8s here and there, but nothing too spectacular. But it was still by far the deck that I was the most comfortable with. But I wasn't playing the Jirachi engine at that point. And I actually didn't really consider the Jirachi engine until the night before, when I was talking to Justin Bakari, and he had the Jirachi engine in his deck, which I believe he got from Keon as well. So when I looked at it, and Edwin were just like, oh, that kind of fixes a lot of the problems that the deck has, because a lot of the times the deck just felt kind of like a secondary or a second-class welder deck. And at that point, it was kind of like, well, why don't we just play Ability Zard instead of playing Mewtwo? The reason that I always played Mewtwo instead of Ability Zard was because of Turbo Strike, Solgaleo's attack, that puts 2 energy, because you only needed to really hit one welder, and then you had plays, and you could kind of like outplay your opponent. What Ability Zard is kind of like, you needed to hit welder at least twice, maybe 3 times to have a good shot, depending on the list. So it came down to less variance, which is just because you don't really want to go to variance. You want to be able to control them and do your strategy as is. So that's what kind of drew me to Mewtwo, and Pika just always felt like it was on the back foot. I know it did well at AC, but it still feels like it's always on the back foot. And if you look at the lists, a lot of them are like 3 reset stamps and all this stuff to tech out, and you can really tell that the lists are meant to play from behind and try to squeeze out a win, and I'd rather just be the deck that's just better. So that's why I picked Mewtwo.
Sick. So yeah, like I mean, from testing myself and like hearing and seeing stuff from the community, like I'm told that Mewtwo is like a very high skill deck, and it's coming to light that like these high skilled players such as yourself, Zul, who won the tournament, Tor just won a regional as well with it in Europe with Mewtwo. So I guess it is a very high skilled deck. Would you consider it to be a high skilled deck?
I think so. At the end of the day, there's a couple of niche attackers that you use. Like, I didn't really use Espeon Deoxys at all outside of the Pidgeotto matchup. It really felt like a Solgaleo, Charizard Hidden Fates, and Charizard Reshiram GX type of deck. And it was just knowing, and a Tag Perch deck as well with Latios, and just knowing when to use which attack, and just knowing what your opponent could do to you and which attack would be best. Like, for example, Tag Perch was really effective against Pikarom, because then they have to hit you with either Koopa or Zapdos. So it was, or they have to custom catch and do kind of a weird play. So it gave you a lot of opportunity to kind of map out how you wanted the game to go, which is great. Especially if you want to be in control of the game instead of just, hitting recklessly, which is how I kind of feel like Abilities Art is. And it might be one reason why Abilities Art didn't really perform as well as it was going to. But at the same time, it's aggressive enough that it's not all about control, kind of like how a deck like Gardevoir Sylveon is, where Gardevoir Sylveon just kind of tries to control the game, but it has a damage cap of 150. Right. So I think it was the best of both worlds, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to play it. So I think it is skillful, but I don't think it's kind of like to the point where like you have to be the best of the best to kind of play it. I think the deck's just naturally good to get a lot of players there, as long as they have practice with it.
So would you consider it an aggressive or a reactive kind of deck?
Definitely aggressive. I tried to make it the best of both worlds by putting 2 stamp in, just to, if I was playing from behind, then at least a stamp kind of kept me in the game, right. Which I think a lot of players kind of realized that you needed. A lot of the lists that I saw leading up to AC didn't play stamp at all, which I think was wrong, because if you're ever behind it, you didn't have a way to get ahead of your opponent. You just had to like try to out aggro them, but you needed something. So stamp kind of like was the best of both worlds, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to play 2.
Yeah, sick, man. So let's jump right into the tournament. So if we could just go like a round by round, brief recap of each round, what matchups you played, and like essentially what was your main strategy approaching that matchup. So if you want, the floor is all yours, man.
Yeah, sure. Sorry. So round 1 was probably my most difficult round of the day. I actually had a no-show. So my do-rag kind of scared him off. I wore the do-rag at AC as a meme just because of Stealthy Hood being a card.
That was that was legendary, bro. I mean, the do-rag was very powerful.
Yeah, so the do-rag scared my round 1 opponent off, so I just had time to, tighten up my do-rag, get ready for round 2 and everything. But it was good. I got to go around and see some people that I usually don't see around, like especially non-locals and stuff like that, and say hello to them. So the no-show was great. In round 2, I played against a Greenzard. I did not expect to play against Greenzard, really. I felt it had kind of fallen off the wagon, and it wasn't really going to be a popular deck. It ended up being the Zard variant that I would only play throughout the tournament. But so I played against a Greenzard, and the stamps definitely helped me because kind of like the cookie cutter play of the deck, if you don't have Welder, it was to just greens for either Power Plant, Fiery Flint, or a Cherish Ball, whatever kind of those 3 cards that you didn't have, you would greens for 2 of those cards. So they would generally get like Cherish Ball, Fiery Flint, and they have Welder in hand or something like that. Or they would just grab Welder, Fiery Flint, and I would stamp them, and then they have to either hard draw into Welder again. They can't play Dedenne, so they have to hard draw into it, or they have to play greens again. But if they're not Weldering, then they're not really keeping up with Mewtwo anymore, because if I play 2 Welders in that time, then the game's pretty much over, especially since Charizard Hidden Fates does 300 damage onto a Reshizard, and you take 3 prizes. Right. And then you can just clean up with like a Macargo GX later on. So I played against Greenzard. I believe I 2-0'd them in round 2, and I was like, oh, that was great. Thanks for putting in work, which was great.
You also just like tag purge them to death? I mean, after, cause like, yeah, they're gonna GX, but then like, what do they do after that? Like, if you just go like stamp tag purge.
You can do that. It kind of depends if they're playing the Dojo version. Because if they're playing Dojo, then they can swing with Volcanion. And it's not really popular, but it's gotten a little traction up here as people will play 2 Fighting Dojo, 2 Fighting Energy. And if they play a variant like that, then they can actually 2-shot Mewtwo with Volcanion, as long as they have Welder. But no one played that, and it's not really popular outside York City.
Just curious, was that guy like a foreign guy?
My round 2 opponent?
The Greenstar dude.
I don't think so. I don't really remember, to be honest, and I'm sorry if you're watching this video and I forgot who you are, but I honestly don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't think I played any foreign opponents this tournament, though.
So your round 3 matchup?
So my round 3 was against my bro Michael Burjak, and he was playing Rushy Blount, not Rushy Blount, just regular Blounts. We went to a close game 3. He ended up winning the game. Interesting, his deck, he didn't run any custom catchers. So it was interesting just because a strategy I could do was like hit a Blount for a certain amount of damage and then use Marsh Shadow Reset Hold to swing for 70 damage for knock on the Beast Ring turn. So there was a couple of cute plays I could have done, but I didn't draw too well in game 3, so he ended up closing out and just winning. And he ended up doing really, really well in day 1. Unfortunately, I think he didn't do so hot in day 2. But I thought, like, the way he was running, he was going to make top 8 for sure.
Yeah, I heard about his deck. I heard he was running, like, acrobikes, like a really kind of, like, odd, like, Blounds list.
Yeah, it was definitely good. It was straight on consistency, which I think is really, really important for regionals. A lot of people don't, they try to like tech to win the tournament, but you need the consistency to kind of get you to the later rounds anyway. So he definitely had like the right idea in mind. I'm not sure if cutting custom catcher altogether is completely correct, but I definitely did what it was supposed to do every round.
Sick. So yeah, let's jump into round 4 now.
So round 4, I played a Dark Box deck. It was a bit unorthodox, and I was actually like very complimentary of my opponent because I hadn't really seen it before. He was using Incineroar as energy acceleration and then playing as kind of a Dark Box deck from there instead of the traditional kind of like either using Naganadel or using Beast Ring or one of those options. So when I played against him, he like immediately Professor Elm for Ditto, Incineroar, and for Vulpix. And he would just evolve Vulpix into Ninetales to get the rare candy, Cherish Ball into Incineroar, and then he would start getting energy. And for you guys that don't know, Incineroar gets 3 dark energy every turn. And his GX attack, if he has 6 damage counters on it, he hits for 300 damage, or 310, I think. I think it's 10 plus 50 times the damage counters on it. So he one-shots me too, and because he's just a regular GX, he's not a tag team, he'll always trade 2 for 3. So it was a really, really cool deck. I ended up winning game 1. I remember I just used Espeon Deoxys GX attack to kill a Ditto and an Incineroar, and a what's the little guy called? Litten. So I killed a Litten and a Ditto for the 100 damage, and he wasn't able to set up an Incineroar for another 2 turns. So at that point, I was already at 2 prizes and I concede. And game 2 was a bit closer, where he actually got his strategy off, and it was a pretty close game, but I ended up taking the win, I think, off a Naganadel Snipe, I believe a Dedenne. So, but he had an awesome deck, and he was definitely the most creative deck that I played throughout the entire tournament. And I'm not sure if he made day 2, but I really hope he did because he had a really cool idea.
Sick. So at this point, you're 3-1 after round 4, right?
Yeah.
So going into round 5, what would you play into?
Round 5, I believe I played Isaac Milazaki. I don't know if I'm mispronouncing your name. If I am, I'm sorry, Isaac. And he was playing Greenstar. So I was already familiar with the matchup from my second round. And we almost tied this game. I believe we went to game 3 because I believe he dead drew, then I dead drew, and then we played game 3 out. And I was able to close it out on turn 2 of time. I think he stamped me, and I needed to draw a certain card combination to win, and I drew it. So I got lucky on that one. Otherwise, it probably would have been a tie. So But yeah, that's
No,
just how the game goes sometimes.
the two green Zards you played against, were they like, were there any special techs or anything different from like the green Zard or from like Worlds? Like, were they playing like high power plant counts, or like was it just like standard green Zard?
It felt like standard Green Zard. Green Zard always played power plant, as far as I'm aware, um, which is pretty effective against Mewtwo. But luckily, I played the resetting hold too, so I was able to end 4 stadiums. So I was able to play around that pretty well, even with the stamps. I didn't play anything crazy like I think in Colm regionals or whatever, however you pronounce it. I think the person who won played. No, not the person that won, because one of the green Zards there played for reset stamp,
Yeah,
which I didn't play anything crazy like that.
Okay. All right.
So the following round, I played against another Blounds player. This one did play custom catcher, and I remember we went back and forth. I think we went to game 3, and I ended up closing it. I don't remember exactly how. I think I did some sort of Macaro play, and resetting hold just did a lot of damage because it hits for 70 or 80 damage if your opponent's active as an Ultra Beast. But I was able to close it out before time, and that was game 3. Another reason that I actually did pick Mewtwo Box was because it can finish 3 games in 50 minutes. During the drive down, Edwin and I were discussing playing Malamar for the regional, and I told him, like, I don't think we can actually finish 3 games, so we're either winning 2-0 or we're tying, and I don't think that that's worth it. So that was one of the reasons we didn't play Malamar. And Edwin and I played Malamar literally like every tournament last season. So it's always on our radar, but it's just too slow right now to, that we thought it wouldn't be too effective at AC. So that's another reason that we played Mewtwo Box. And Edwin and I ended up playing the same 60.
Sick. So, I had a question. So, do you think Mewtwo has a good Blacephalon matchup? Because I know, like, like when Worlds came out in this format, in the early stages format, they were saying that Mewtwo Blacephalon is favored over Mewtwo. How do you feel about that matchup?
It really comes down to, at least in my experience, it comes down to if Blacephalon draws Welder early. The nice thing about Mewtwo is that you can take a KO on here goes second. You can kill a Blound on turn 2 if you really want to, because Macargo's attack does 200 damage as long as you draw Welder Fire Energy, or you don't even need to draw Welder Fire Energy. Just Welder and another Welder 2 Fire Energy and then another Energy, and you hit for 200. Which sometimes just kind of throws them off because now they have to get 6 energy on turn 2, and they need to find their 9 Andels, they need to find at least 3 Beast Ring, they need to find another Welder they didn't attach to like the bench, or if they burst and they didn't hit a Fire Energy. So Mewtwo can definitely out-aggro them. If they don't run Custom Catcher, then you can kind of do some weird plays with the Mars Shadow that hits for 70 just because you can take a knockout, and if they don't run Custom Catcher, then they're forced to kill that, and then you can have 2 Mewtwo's. You force a 7-prize game, whereas the Mars Shadow takes 2 prize, and then like 1 Mewtwo takes another 2 prize, and then the last Mewtwo will finish the game off. So it really comes down to the Blound build and respectively how well they draw, I guess. So I think Mewtwo's always in the game, and it kind of comes down to Blound. So just on that notion alone, I think it's slightly favored for Mewtwo. But if someone told me that, it's slightly Blound's favor, I wouldn't really argue with them because it certainly could be. You certainly could tech for it or something of the like. It's definitely close at the end of the day.
Gotcha. All right, so we'll jump into round 6 now.
Yeah, so round 7, right?
I thought round 5 was Blacephalon. Oh no, was it?
Round 5, I think, was Green Zard.
Okay.
Round 7, I played against Pidgeotto. I had a pretty bad opening, game 1.
Who was that against, by the way?
His name was Toby, I believe.
Okay.
Because I think Edwin played him the round after me. Or 2 rounds. No, he played him 2 rounds after me. But his name was Toby. He had recently come back to the game. I think the last time he played was back in like 2010, 2011. But he was very good. It was definitely an enjoyable game, despite it being like the Pidgeotto matchup. And so I lost game 1 decently early because I wanted to try to win game 2 quickly and then try to win game 3 quickly and at the very least force a tie. Just because at that point I was X-1, so if I tied again, it didn't really matter to me. But I didn't want to lose again because then I couldn't afford another loss day 2. So we played, and I scooped game 1 pretty early, and then game 2 kind of dragged out. And he dragged out so long to turn 3 of time where I decked him out with Macargo GX's GX attack. But because it was turn 3 of time, he doesn't draw cards, so he wins the set just based on that, even though he had no cards left in deck. So I ended up losing to him. And, that was actually my first experience with the Pidgeotto deck. Like I had heard of it before, but I hadn't played against it before. So definitely... it's not really fun being your first stall. Your first stall archetype. I played against plenty of stall decks before. Peter was playing Lucario stall throughout like all of quarter 4 last year. So I definitely had like stall practice, but it's still like just not fun. It's not a deck that I enjoy playing against, or it's a deck that I would consider playing at a tournament. Like I just don't get any fun out of it. But it's just there, so... But I ended up taking the L, and that's it. It's kind of that.
Oh, you lost that round.
Yeah, I did lose that round.
Good. So, by any chance, was he playing Giraffary?
No, I didn't see any Giraffary. I think the only Yoto that I played that played Giraffary was Grant when I played him in top 4.
Okay, so at this point, what's your record after round?
I'm X2 at this point, so that was round 7, so I was 5-2.
Okay, so day 2, you have to... Well,
6-1.
You have to win 1 more and then tie.
Yeah, so I had to win 1 more. Ideally, I would wanted to win 2 more, just to give myself a better shot in day 2. Because whenever you go 6-2-1, that means you have to go 4-0-1 in day 2, and that's just like... It's just annoying. At least if you go like 7-1-1 into day 2, then you can afford 1 loss. And you're going to play more difficult opponents in day 2 than you are in day 1. So it's just better to go in with the best record you can in day 1. So, going into day 2.
How'd your last 2 rounds look like?
So I just said that you should play it out, but I actually played against Will Jenkins, who's a homie, in round 8. And we're both playing Mewtwo Box, so he just asked me if I want to tie ID. And just because he's a homie, I was like, yeah, that's fine. So I ended up IDing, and we both just decided, we just have to win our round 9 to get into day 2. But at least then, if we both win our round 9, we both make it into day 2 instead of one of us knocking each other out.
Right.
So that was it was fine, and it ended up working out that we both made day 2. So I guess it was a smart ID.
That's what muffs are for, man.
Yeah, exactly. Can't do muff on muff crime, at least until day 2.
Absolutely not. So your last round, you had to win for your day 2. So what was it against, and how did it go?
So I played against Pikarom my last round, which I was pretty happy about, just because Pikarom's a pretty favorable matchup for Mewtwo. Especially my variant, the only way that Pika really wins is if they manage to trap you in paralysis and stamp you. But if you're running the Jirachi build, you have 3 switch and 2 escape board, so you have a lot of outs to kind of retreat out of it. So I felt pretty confident going into round 9 when I saw Lightning Energy. So we played, it was actually a pretty uneventful set where he dead drew game 1, I dead drew game 2, and then game 3 it kind of played out how it's supposed to, and I ended up taking it.
It's funny that you mentioned that strategy because in the tournament I played Pika and I played against 3 Mewtwo decks, and that was my strategy: paralyze, stamp, and just pray that they couldn't get out of it, and then I just like would take it out. And I can't even imagine like you had 2 escape boards. I mean, if you just hit you could still retreat with the escape board. That's probably was like really good for you too. So.
Yeah, Pika ended up being the deck that I played the most throughout the entire tournament, and I would just put an escape board on my Mewtwo. So I was like, you can stamp me, but I already have the out to retreat if I need to.
Yeah, that seems like a really good strat. All right, so you went 6-2-1, right? Day 1.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I think I finished like 50 something in Swiss or something. Not that it matters. I mean, that those numbers are just kind of for showcase. I think it's your record really. So like if you're not, 7-2 or whatever, and you're 6-2-1 or 6-1-2, like as long as you're in day 2, it doesn't really matter. There's so many 6-2-1s nowadays that the number doesn't matter.
Yeah, definitely, man. So, all right, Durag on head, 6-2-1. He's heading for day 2. I bet you're pretty stoked. So, let's go to your it was 5 rounds, right, in day 2? It wasn't.
Yeah, it was 5 rounds.
5. So, let's jump right into it. So, you're running hot at this point. You're round 10. What do you see and what do you do?
So they wanted us back there at 7:30 in the morning, which I'm pretty sure everyone was pretty upset about because it's so early.
That's insane.
I think it's the earliest that I've ever been to.
Isn't it usually like 8:30?
Even the 6th rounder day 2s that I've been in haven't had me back at 7:30. I think Jimmy Ballard always has you back at 9 o'clock.
That's insane.
So it was definitely early. And round 10, I actually ended up playing another Pidgeotto. So I wasn't too stoked about that because now I kind of really had to wake up. I couldn't really play.
That's brutal.
Because against like stall decks, like every turn is every turn's important because their whole deck is to kind of exploit you making a mistake.
Right.
So I played against Pidgeotto. I believe I started Jirachi against him, which was good because I was able to win game 1 just by my board was Jirachi with an escape board, Latios, and Mewtwo. And what I would do was I would Stellar just to get more cards in the hand, swing with Mewtwo to Turbo Strike onto Latios. And when he would Power Plant me, I would swing with Latios because Latios could then attack because his ability that makes it so you need 5 or more or 4 more Pokemon in play is turned off, and he also hits for 120. So he one-shots anything in the Pidgeotto deck.
Big brain.
And he has free retreat as well. So I would just kind of go back and forth. So I would swing with Latios, and if he would Crushing Hammer and hit off my Psychic Energy, then I would put down a Stadium, retreat into Mewtwo, then Turbo Strike the Psychic Energy back on the Latios, and then kind of rinse and repeat. And when I got to 2 prizes, I benched Mars Shadow so that if he Power Plant Reset Stamp me, then I just remove the Power Plant with Mars Shadow, and then I can go continue my strategy. So I ended up taking game 1 like that because my board just kind of allowed me to do that setup. If you start something like the Dene or Deoxys or something else, then obviously you can't do that, and they just try to custom catcher and stall you. But luckily enough, I was able to start Jirachi and go from there. And then, so game 1 took probably 35 minutes, and then game 2 just didn't finish, so I won the set 1-0.
Nice. Dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, I do not like playing against stall. I like playing decks where it's just like, you put your fists up, you just fight it out, and just see who comes out on top. I don't like I've never really liked stall archetypes.
Bro, playing fucking Pidgeotto 7:30 in the morning, that's insane. It's just in Atlantic City. I can't even imagine it, bro.
Yeah, but you're like the stall slayer, like
I hate it.
Just like by the back of your hand. So that's crazy.
It's funny.
It's just something that I just never enjoy playing.
It's funny you mentioned Kika was playing it all last year because like when we'd go to Cubs, I'd just see him like, all right, I gotta put a Rangaroo in, gotta put fucking. I was like, all right, I could lose this cup, but I want to beat Kika.
Big man. Kika and I actually have like an agreement where, because we travel, we always like carpool together, and like I never tech for Kika. Like no matter what random bull he's playing, like If we play, we play, and that's it. But like, I'll never like put in a card specifically to like tech against him. Even if he's the only stall, I'm not gonna put in something to tech against him. I just leave it to the fate of gods. So.
I hear you, man. All right, so
that means someone else has to beat him for me.
So round 11, what'd you see?
Round 11, I played against Tanner Hurley's Pikarom. I believe he was playing the same list as John Ang. So we had a pretty close game. We actually both threw in game 3, where I threw first. I miscalculated how many energy I needed on Mewtwo to kill Alolan Raichu. So I threw first, and then I was like, all right, I just deserve to lose at this point. And then he threw by not benching a Mew to save his Dedenne from a Naganadel snipe, because he was fishing hard to get the KO on my Mew GX. So we were both kind of throwing, and it just kind of worked out that I got the win before he did. I would be the first to say, like, I definitely didn't deserve it, but we were both kind of throwing. So I feel like in that case, it just kind of came down to luck, and luck just was on my side. Tanner's certainly a really good player. Definitely has a lot of accomplishments in seniors as he aged up. But, I'm not so much like arrogant to say that, like, oh, I definitely outplayed him. Like, we both threw, and, luck was just on my side that round.
Gotcha. All right, so you're 2-0 day 2, running hot.
Yeah, 2-0 at that point, and I knew that I just needed to win 2 more, and then I could ID, and I should be in cut. So I was feeling pretty good after that.
So what was your third match of day 2?
So I played against my third Green Zard of the event. So I played against my friend Anthony Bruno. He's local from, I believe, the Connecticut area. So.
Oh, he played greens?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he played ability.
No. He played greens. So game 1 was kind of unfortunate for him. He started lone Reshizard, and he whiffed on Pokegear, which is one of the big problems of the Green Zard deck. Is if you whiff on Pokegear and you don't have anything, like, you're just sitting there, like, you don't really do too much, because you can't Cherish Ball for Dedenne or anything to draw more cards. So that's one of the big downfalls of the deck. So he went first, he whiffed Pokegear, and I basically went turn 1 Welder, turn 2 Welder, Charizard 300, and I won game 1.
That'll do it.
So game 2 was a bit closer, but the matchup's pretty favored for Mewtwo. I remember that I think I got a turn 1 kill on his Volcanion because I Turbo Striked. With my Mewtwo, and I put 2 energy on my Mewtwo on the bench. And he ended up weldering, and I think his exact 3 cards off the welder, because we talked about it afterwards, was Fighting Energy, Dojo, and I think Cherish Ball to get another Pokemon. But because he hit the Fighting Energy Dojo after I killed the Volcanion, he does 270 with Flare Strike.
Right.
So he was able to knock out my Mewtwo, and he was just like, oh, I got so lucky on there. But this is kind of where, like, the power of Hidden Fate's Charizard shine, because I already had 2 energy on my Mewtwo on the bench. So I just weldered and put 2 more energy onto it, and I just stamped him, and I knocked out the Charizard. And now he has just a board of Charizard, no energy, and he had already used a welder at that point, and he can't afford to greens, because then I just go attach another energy Macargo and the game's over. So it was kind of a checkmate, but it's a soft checkmate type of thing. And he just wasn't able to recover from there, and I ended up just winning the second game, and I took the set 2-0.
Yeah, too bad for Bruno, man. That dude is always, I think since I've seen him, or since he started playing, he's literally always played fire decks.
Yeah. No, and he's certainly good. I think he was the best placing fire deck at AC, so, no slouch, definitely.
Well deserved. So you're 3-0, 1 win away from locking in top 8. So what was that last dub?
The last dub was unfortunately Muff on Muff Crime, where I had to play fellow Muff Jason Anicherico. He was playing Pika, so it was a good matchup for me. I definitely he was the third Pika matchup I played throughout the day. I knew how to play it, and he didn't play any like cute techs like Absol or anything like that. So it just made the matchup a bit easier for me. So it was pretty straightforward 2-0. Obviously he did as much as he could, but at the end of the day, like if Mewtwo does well and Pikarom does well, like Mewtwo just comes out on top, and I ended up taking it.
It's hard to hear. It's bittersweet, but hey, man.
Yeah, it was bittersweet, but we both knew like whichever one of us wins, just IDs in the top 8, and the other one has a chance at top 16. So
Absolutely.
I was really happy to hear that he won his last round and he was able to get top 16.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, like, if you're gonna take an L to a friend, it doesn't really sting as bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So there you go. You got your 4 dubs in day 2. So I'm assuming you're pretty set on IDing your last round. I mean.
Yeah, there was definitely talk that someone would miss, but I've always been kind of.
How many points
I'm
were
sorry?
you at, by the way? How many points were you at before the ID, or you're like?
I was at 31 points before the ID, and the ID put me at 32 points, which was a bubble.
Okay.
So I decided to ID.
Who did you ID with?
I ID'd with Ryan Antonucci.
Okay, so he was playing Pikarom. So
Yeah. So
he was playing at that point.
I actually did know what he was playing. I know that I got paired up to him. He was at 32 points, and if we ID'd, he'd go to 33. So afterwards, like, people were like, "Oh, why didn't you just play him? Like, you had a favorable matchup." And I was like, "I don't even know what he was playing." And he was like, "Oh, it was on the website." I was like, "I don't check that stuff. I went gambling the night before. Like, I don't look at any of that. I just sit down and play."
I mean, no, if you knowing he did play Pikarom, would it have helped you? I mean,
no, I still would have ID'd.
Yeah. Like what?
I'd rather risk. So I guess there's two schools of thought where people will, like, oh, I might be the one to miss, so I'm gonna play out. But like, I started 4-0 on day 2, and the people that I played against were doing very well. So I thought my tiebreakers were decent enough that I didn't think that everyone else would have better tiebreakers than me. I thought I would squeeze in. Maybe I'm 7 seed, maybe I'm 8 seed, whatever the case. But I didn't think I'd be the one to whiff, especially since like Honky won. Jason won his last round. Tanner was doing really well. So I was convinced that I was good, regardless if I ID'd or played it out. And if I ID'd and put him to 33, I might be the one to hit him in top 8. So, and I believe Danny Altavilla was also in one of the higher seeds in top 8. So I wanted to be more of the lower seed because I wanted to hit Pikarom in top 8.
All right, so you got your ID.
So I would have ID'd regardless.
So you got that. Hey guys, sorry, just quick edit. We're punching right back in. So you just ID'd your last round. So
Yep.
What place did you get? What was your seed for top 8?
So I was 7th seed, and I ended up facing Ryan Antonucci, who was 2nd seed in top 8. So he was playing Pikarom, and I ID'd with him in round 14.
Okay, so how'd your top 8 match go?
It was interesting. In game 1, he didn't really draw too well, so the game went pretty lopsided to me, but he still put up a pretty good fight with just kind of Hoopa and reset stamps. Game 2, I only played one welder throughout the entire game, but because of Turbo Strike, I was able to stay in that game, and we had 75 minutes, so I didn't feel like I had to concede game 2 just to try and win, make sure that we had enough time to win game 3. So he ended up winning game 2. I ended up stamping him to 2, and he had a full board, so he couldn't do Dene anymore, and he ended up getting double custom catcher, his last 2 custom catcher in deck, off of my stamp to 2. Which was unfortunate. But we went to game 3, and game 3, I just ended up winning. I don't really remember how, but I just went first, and I did kind of Mewtwo things after that.
Gotcha. So you got the dub, heading to top 4, and what you play against top 4?
So I knew I wouldn't have like an easy top four because I was either going to play K-Tron's Malamar, who was kind of teched for the tag team decks, especially with his Shrine of Punishment and stuff like that, or I would play against Grant's Pidgeotto. So I wasn't having, I'd rather have been on like Azul's side of the bracket where he played a Pikarom and then he played a Mewtwo Mirror. I would have much rather played that than play against Grant or K-Tron, but Grant ended up winning the top 8 set. So I played against Grant. I started really, really terribly against him game 1, and he was able to do the lock. I kind of just played out the game to get time to go down, just to use as much time as I thought was necessary, because I knew I was going to try to win a quick game 2 and then game 3, but at the same time, I didn't want to scoop game 1 so early where game 3 would completely play out in case that it would give him a chance to win the game. I wanted to win game 3 on prizes just by going into time. So I sat there for probably 25, 30 minutes in game 1, just to, even though I know I had already lost, but just to kind of run down the clock, because that's just the weakness of Pidgeotto in Top Cut.
Sure.
So I did that. Game 2, I got pretty unlucky where I would win the game on a Welder 2-turn. There were 2 turns that I would win on Welder, and I Detonate and Stellar Guidance, Stellar Wish for both those turns. So I saw 11 cards effectively, and I missed Welder on both of those turns. And if I would have hit Welder, then I just clear his board with Deoxys's GX attack. And then we would go into game 3, where I would try to win on prizes in time. But because I didn't hit the Welder, I had a Deoxys GX attack for 3 prizes and go to 1 and try to hit my last stadium, which was Viridian Forest. I knew that it was prized, but it was the last prize. So I had a 25% chance of missing it off of the 3 prizes that I took off of Espeon Deoxys' GX attack. And I just didn't hit it. So I wasn't able to close out the game because I didn't have the stadium and I wasn't able to bump his power plant. So when he Crushing Hammered my last Psychic Energy, my Mewtwo couldn't use Solgaleo's attack to put that Psychic Energy back, so I just conceded the set. And that's kind of how my end to AC came about. But I was still pretty happy about making top 4. It had been a while since I think 2 years or a year and a half since I top 8 at a regional. So I was happy to just kind of be back in that kind of bracket and stuff.
Yeah, man, you had one hell of a tournament, man. There's nothing to be upset about, man. You did a hell of a job. So after hearing your rounds and your matchups, it's shocking to see you didn't play any Mewtwo mirrors at all, right?
Yeah, so the only Mewtwo mirror I played was Will Jenkins, and we ID'd that
right.
because we're bros. But I didn't play against any Ability Zard, and I didn't play against any Guardian. My deck would beat Guardian just because I played the Turtonator and the Reshizard. So I could just go 6 energy Reshizard, kill a Guardian, and then retreat Welder again and go Turtonator and remove 6 energy and kill the second Guardian. So I could beat Guardian, unlike Azul's list, but I just never played any.
So no Guardian, no Mewtwo mirrors, no Ability Zards, and no Mallies as well, right?
Yeah. I played 5 Pikas, 3 Pidgeotos, 3 Green Zard, and then just random stuff. Oh, 2 Blounds. What else? A Dark Box. Let me just kind of looking. Yeah, and I think that was it. And then I had the no-show, the Dark Box, and yeah. So I definitely played like not to say like the tier 3 decks or tier 2 decks, but definitely like the lower end of the bracket.
Right, no, totally. Now, you mentioned Azul's list too. That was going to be one of my questions too. In hindsight, looking back at the tournament, let's say you did win your top 4 match and you played Azul in the finals. How do you think the Jirachi engine pairs against the traditional Mewtwo deck?
So I think at the end of the day, Azul is slightly favored because, especially if he gets a turn 1 KO on my Jirachi, because he's able to play the game where if he, let's say, Turbo Strikes my Jirachi turn 1 and puts 2 energy onto his board, he only has to kill my Mewtwo and then he can just snipe a Dedenne and the game's over. I don't really have that out anymore because he doesn't really play these small attackers. He only plays attacking. So I have to kill Mewtwo and then kill another Mewtwo. So if I would have played him, kind of the preliminary strategy in my head was I was just going to rush him. I wasn't going to bench Jirachi GX onto my bench, and I was just going to go Mewtwo, copy Macargo's attack, and do 300. And just kill him and use the Jirachi as an out to his stamps. So that was my kind of game plan going in, and I would try like game one just to see how that goes. But I thought, at least like off the top of my head, because I had the Jirachi kind of liability, it just wouldn't be worth it. But the Jirachi at the same time kind of rescued me from stamp. So, and once he kills one Jirachi, killing the second Jirachi doesn't really net him anything, because you kill the second Jirachi and then you kill a tag team, you go to one prize, I can stamp you to one. So the second Jirachi actually has more value than the first Jirachi. But it was definitely a toss-up. I don't think that if we both would have played, like, and you asked us, oh, who do you think would have won? Like, it could have been either one of us. I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. I just like Jirachi more because Jirachi gives you more outs overall to Welder, which is what you need, than Pokegear does, because Jirachi can grab like Cherish Ball, you can Cherish Ball for Dedenne, and Dedenne can draw you into Welder, whereas Pokegear doesn't get you Cherish Ball. Pokegear basically says, look at 7 cards and I might do something. Right. Whereas Jirachi says, I have a higher chance of doing something. Absolutely. So I like Jirachi more.
Definitely, man. So my next question is, after, looking back at the tournament, do you feel that the deck, what changes would you make? Would you make any cuts, any additions, any changes to the deck that you felt that the deck could use from your 60?
That's a pretty tricky question. So like I said, like my tournament run I didn't really play any of the quote unquote hype decks. I didn't play Ability Zard, I didn't play Mally, I didn't play Guardian. So the cards that I had in there to kind of beat them, such as like Turtonator, for example, didn't really pull too much weight over the weekend. So like while I was playing them, they felt like dead cards. Jirachi GX felt like the worst card in the deck by far, but I didn't play against any Mally, so the only game that I ever used him was when a Blound was going to go to 3 prizes, and I said, oh, I need to bench him now because I can't afford to have a Naganadel hitting me for 320 damage, so I need to have Jirachi on board. Right. But he felt like the worst card in the deck. So it's really odd because my tournament run was very odd on top of that. So the cuts that I felt that I should make isn't really representative of what the meta is. So I don't know if I should actually cut them. And just from what I've seen from League Cups and stuff like that, Guardian is definitely popular. So I don't know if I'd actually cut Turtonator, even though he didn't really do anything during my tournament run. And Mally is pretty popular in New York City, so I don't know if I'd cut Jirachi regardless. But I don't know if Jirachi actually wins you the matchup. So maybe you can cut him. If you're just having Jirachi for mirror match and Malamar, then maybe he's cuttable. But at the same time, I don't know what I would cut him for. Edwin and I had talked, and he wants to cut Custom Catcher, but Custom Catcher was just really, really good for me over the weekend, so I wouldn't cut it. And I also don't know what card would be better than Custom Catcher, because even drawing, there were a lot of games where I would play my hand down and then Custom Catch and just try to draw 3 cards to get an out to Dene, and I would hit it off those 3 cards. So even the Custom Catcher singular effect was really, really good for me over the weekend. So I'm really not inclined to cutting Custom Catcher like Edwin wants to. And I think it actually hurts your Mewtwo Box mirror because then you're not able to play around Tag Purge.
I think this list seems really solid. Just looking at it now, I mean, it just seems really good. Like, I think it was a great idea. And I was speaking to Bakari during the tournament, and we were speaking about one of your opponents at the tournament, Michael Burge, Bucephalon, that you got to play, and he was mentioning how Burge was saying, like, for regionals and tournaments, it's smart to like take an existing deck and take like a different approach, a new approach on it, to like throw people off, but make it more consistent. And I guess like he did that with the Bucephalon with no catchers, acro bikes, just consistent card. Whereas I think this build you guys did, you took Mewtwo, you played the Jirachi engine. I think it. I know I haven't really played this list, but I mean, looking at it, it makes sense. Like you mentioned, like Pokegears probably fail more often than actually hit, and the fact that Jirachi could grab you a custom catcher or like you mentioned, like anything, a Switch, keyboard. I mean, it just seems so good. A stadium, it's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And I also have to give credit where credit's due. Like the Jirachi version of the deck definitely isn't my version or something like that. Like I said, I got the idea from Justin Bakari. I know Bakari and Keon have been talking about it. I know Andrew Mahone put out a video regarding the Jirachi build with Mewtwo Box. He played it a lot differently. I think he played like 4 PCOM or something like that, which I think is awful, and that I wouldn't play a version like that. But like I'm not the innovator of the deck or anything of the like. I give credit where credit's due, and it's definitely to Bakari and Keon Namani.
Absolutely, man. So you did get you got 150 CP or 100 CP from this tournament?
I got 130.
130. So what does that place you for this season so far?
So right now I'm in top 16. I think I'm in 13th or 14th place, which is, it's cool and everything. But, I just don't travel as much as the other competitors at that level do. So I don't think I'll actually stay up there for long. I'm not going to Knoxville. I'm not going to LAIC or anything like that. So I'll probably get passed relatively shortly. But it's nice to just be in the top 16 for now, this early in the season.
What's your CP total, though?
Right now I'm at 325.
You're damn near halfway there, man.
Yeah, more than halfway. My goal is to get the invite by the end of the year, and then I'm just going to chill and kind of focus on other hobbies. I really like playing. Well, most people that chill with me know that I like playing Super Smash Brothers. So there's a couple of majors coming up that I want to go to, and if I get the invite early, then I can kind of focus on grinding that instead. So that's kind of my long-term plan, at least for the season. And then I'll still pay attention to the game and stuff like that, still be involved, maybe play a couple of locals, but definitely not like grinding regionals or anything like that to get the invite if I already have it.
Are you planning on attending any regionals in like the season that are in the area or somewhat easy to go to?
So I'll definitely be at Richmond and Portland. I've already booked those. I'm 50-50 on San Diego regionals just because San Diego is my favorite city to visit in the U.S. And then I'll probably go to Milwaukee regionals in June just because I have a couple of college friends out there just to visit them. So that's kind of the plan. I don't think I'll go to anything else as far as I know. I'll probably go to Albany just because it's like a 2-hour car drive.
Right. All right, man. Well, I'll be seeing you in our locals if you go. I mean, I personally prefer not to see you at locals because it was a hard time when you're in the room. But, man,
I'll be there, but, more so to chill just because the best part of this game isn't like playing the game, it's the community. So
absolutely, man. It's football season, man. Sundays we got to go.
Oh yeah,
fun. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and I got to throw the big Super Bowl party when that comes around.
Definitely. Well, man, hell of a run at AC, man. I'm so like glad that someone like I'm close with, man, and someone like you deserves it, man. I know like you're a great player, and it's good to see someone like get like a good finish. And congrats, man. Do you want to say any shout outs, any thank yous or anything before we wrap this up?
Yeah, definitely shout out to the Muff squad. Got the hoodie on and everything. There you go. So it's best hoodie. Definitely contact Anthony if you want one. Shout outs to my testing group, Peter, Edwin, Mike Dolan, Oz, everyone just basically that supports me and everything like that. It keeps me in the game, keeps me motivated in the game, and keeps me to keep getting better and stuff like that. Jersey Muff Squad, obviously, Anthony Nui, Danny Chalet, even though he's like locked in a dungeon right now. And just everyone, like, you know, like I said, the best part of this game is the community. It's not just playing the game. It's just that, you know, everyone enjoys being with each other, chilling and everything like that. So that's the reason that I've played this game for almost 7 years now.
Definitely, man. Yeah, like I've been in this game for like 3 seasons now recently, and I met some really good dudes, man. We're traveling the world, going to new cities and just exploring, and I couldn't ask for any like better dudes to do it with. So thanks, man, for being such a good dude, and again, congrats. And one last question before we wrap it up: will the Durag make a cameo appearance at another regional?
Oh yeah, the Durag's here to stay. You know, last year was Helmet, and this year's Durag. So Durag's here for this season, and then, you know, we got to change it up for next season.
I'm so glad, man. It's good news, man. All right, Tristan, Batman, Macek, man, thanks again, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And please like us on Twitter at Muff Squad NJ. You can look us up on our newly created Facebook page, M Squad. And yeah, just comment and like and subscribe to our channel. And thanks for watching, man.
Yeah. Thanks for interviewing me. See you guys. Muff Squad's the best.
Later, guys.